It's awfully quiet in here.
Awfully quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think we've been doing?
Screaming at each other.
I'm just yelling at Ben occasionally. He's a jackwagon.
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally. What?
14, 15, 15.
So, my phone is dead. For you guys that don't believe me, it just turned back on. It's at 1% now. Okay, I guess I'm a liar now. I'm telling you, the thing shut off when I went to tune film.
That thing's always dead.
So, I won't lie, I do that on purpose occasionally, but today I wasn't. Today is Wednesday, and it's Wednesday at 10 o'clock. I wasn't feeling so hot. Basically all day. So, I laid down in the air conditioning. And,
AKA not the beating sun.
Yes.
not the beating sun for a little while. And, had the car basically ready to start up last night. So, this is where we are finishing off. Topped it off with, added another, quart and a half, 2 quarts of oil to it today. And I went to go prime the fuel system, and I couldn't find my fuel pump primer, or my oil pump primer rather. So, I went to my trailer, and for you guys that don't know, we had the Dirty 30, the car, the 4-door, the original Dirty 30. I guess we could talk about that. Nah, we won't talk about that.
You already talked about it.
Not really, not in the video, but not on the YouTube videos or nothing.
Oh.
So we had the original Dirty 30. I can't say the original, but like a pretty well-known 4-door 1930 Plymouth that I pulled out of a barn, and that was a pretty cool car. Had twin turbo big block Chevy in it. Actually, well, not these turbos anymore. Same turbos though, same compressor housings. One of these is welded up.
Yeah.
One of these is welded up from losing the Dirty 30, and same turbine housings and same headers actually. It's like that smashed dent right there is from, oh, that's from the Homegrown Hustler. That's from the Homegrown Hustler. The one over there is from the Dirty 30. And but yeah, that car was pretty freaking cool. But in the fire, we burnt up the cam sync. The cam sync on a big block Chevy is where the distributor goes. So with the Dirty 30, it was same cam sync that I started with the stretchy truck, which was back in 2013. And a lot of these companies weren't coming out with aftermarket EFI cam sync. So that was actually a cam sync that I used out of a Vortec 454 style like Chevy truck. Well, you can see, you can zoom in here a little bit, and there's not much left of it. And I'll show you a picture what's left, but there really wasn't much left. And this was a flying window deal, so there was a window on it, and it all melted in the fire. There, we got some remnants pieces back there, but there's a window, and when it crosses the window, that's when you know that the #1 cylinder is at top dead center, or that's how you index it rather, for individual fuel and timing curves. We run a, you could show them, the wheel down here. This is a 60-2 trigger wheel that we have on the car currently. It's different from like a 4 magnet, 6 magnet, 8 magnet, 16 magnet, whatever deal, because that one right there is similar to a LS style 58X 60-2. They also have a 20, whatever it is, 30-1 or something like that. Well, with that being said, when that crosses the crank trigger, it knows where the where #1 cylinder is, because there's 2 missing teeth on there. That's the 60-2 or 58X. So 60-2 means there's 60 teeth on this, evenly spaced, but 2 of those teeth are missing. So it gives us a 2 teeth gap, and we index that at generally 10 or 11 teeth past top dead center, where our crank trigger rests when #1 cylinder is at its dwell point at top dead center. Well, running that cam or that crank trigger there, we don't have to run a cam sync. So for most of the time with the Homegrown Hustler, we didn't have our good cam sync, so we just ran it off the crank trigger, and we made pretty good power, but and has better tuning abilities than a carburetor. But without having the cam sync, we just could control timing off of a base map, of course with alterations to the timing map, but fueling was done bank to bank. It wasn't done individual cylinder trims. So Now that we have EGTs on this car, once again, because you know these are the headers I built for the 30. Now that we have EGTs and easier to read spark plugs because I could access all these spark plugs without much hassle, we'll do individual fuel and timing corrections on this car. Corrections are to really balance out a motor because no motor is perfectly balanced. Some people think I'm crazy when I say this, but it's the truth. A V8 engine is 8 single-cylinder motors. Okay, this cylinder right here might want a little bit more or less fuel or more or less timing than this cylinder, and so on and so forth. That's because the motor isn't 100% efficient. This motor is based off of a motor that came out in the 1960s. LS motors are a little more efficient, quite a bit more efficient, and aftermarket cylinder head designs that are quite expensive, where you get intake runners that are evenly spaced out and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. A lot of technicalities that go into the motor that can really balance out a motor to make things more efficient, I guess you could say. Where you can run everything. Can you shut that up? Where you can run a motor where number 1 cylinder and number, let's say, 8 cylinder are making within, let's say, 3-4%, maybe less than that. With like a very good program, you might have motors that make within 2% horsepower as far as cylinders a cylinder. In a Pro Stock program, they probably got those within, I don't know, I've never done anything with Pro Stock, but those guys run their stuff very efficiently. So I'd be very surprised if their cylinder trims are within more than 1 or 2% from each other. And a big block Chevy or a small block Chevy, where you have your exhaust ports, your exhaust valves are Siamese. That means they're next to each other, so you have exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust, exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust. You got two exhaust valves right next to each other. And a lot of people run into issues with on a small block Chevy where 4 and 6, 3 and 5 run a little bit hotter, or they burn up those cylinders because they pull the number 1 spark plug, but number 1 spark plug is running quite a bit cooler because it doesn't have 2 exhaust valves right next to each other on the cylinder head. So that's all stuff that, like, you could get really in depth, and I could talk, you know, I could do friggin' 20 episodes on the YouTube channel just talking about that type of stuff. But that's not why most of you are here. So getting back to it, this is the cam sink that was out of the 30. It burnt up pretty bad. So I went to the trailer, tore it apart, because normally we have a real primer kit back in New York, but we don't have that here. So I welded up old Taiwanese socket to the shaft, and we're priming it up. So we're priming it up, and I just got some oil going into the water bottle. It's all fresh oil here, but we're making sure this is when the turbo feeds to the oil. So I'm making sure we got oil going through the whole system. And if I got a steady stream of oil coming out of here where there's no air pockets in it, that means we got a saturated oil system. The motor's fresh, so although you use assembly lube and stuff like that, when you're putting a motor together, there's going to be air pockets in the oiling system. The crankshaft isn't filled with oil yet. The main caps don't have oil in them yet. The oil pump itself has air cavities in it. So we spin it up with the drill until oil comes out of here at a steady state. And right now we're getting about 15-ish pounds of oil pressure out of it. And then we bump the motor over a little bit, rotate it a little bit. Then we run it up again for 10-15 seconds, roll the motor over again. And we do this series a couple times just to make sure we get oil through this whole system. And then we're gonna go through and throw the real cam sink back in there. And then we're gonna fire this sucker off. And it shouldn't take a whole lot of time to fill up the prime the fuel system on the car. We run an Aeromotor 12-gallon a minute fuel pump, but as you can see, the fuel pump is mounted lower than the fuel cell. And I know a lot of you guys ask, why'd you run a fuel pump or a fuel cell in the front of your car? Well, guys, you almost have to. There's a reason why funny cars and top fuel cars and so on and so forth have fuel cells in the front of the car, because the bigger the fuel pump is, the better it pushes and the worse it sucks. Okay, so you can't be sucking fuel from all the way in the back up front, because you get, let's say you have, that's a dash 16 line, A on lines, 16 is 16 sixteenths, 8 is 8 sixteenths, 10 is 10 sixteenths, okay? That's how that all works with A on lines. So that's a dash 16 line to the feed pump. So if you have a 1-inch line that's 14 feet long, you're gonna probably have 2 gallons of fuel in the line. And that's like 16, 12, 14 pounds of fuel just in your line that you have to suck forward as you're accelerating down the racetrack. And that stuff just doesn't work out so well. So we're gonna finish priming this sucker up, and then the fuel pump is damn near already primed because it's below the level of the fuel cell, and we should be able to fire this sucker up pretty shortly. And fingers crossed that everything's happy. So, ready to get at it?
All right.
All right, we'll catch back with you guys in a minute.
Got a nice stream. Do you need to prime this side too, or you think it's good?
So the only reason for doing this is just to make sure that there's oil coming out of it.
Okay.
Because this is the highest point in the oiling system. So if there's oil coming out of here.
Yeah. Then there's oil everywhere.
Because guess what?
If there's not.
Gravity is the hardest working motherfucker in this world.
If I run out of here, shut it off. Because something's probably not right. If I'm running away, I'm saving myself.
Alright.
But, okay.
We almost have fuel pressure.
Put on the brake.
Doesn't park.
Well, the wheels.
I got no brake. Got red bleeding.
Is it coming out?
Yeah.
Getting out of here.
This is pouring.